on Saturday. Some movement is expected in the Gogra and Hot Springs area now. Whether this move means that there is some progress, there is some end to the stalemate between India and China, Snehesh Alex Philip, who tracks defense for ThePrint, will tell us in this edition of Government Matters. So do start sending in your questions. So Snehesh, let's just look ahead a little bit. We all know what happened in the talks. We've also reported about the talks on Saturday, which I think were the shortest perhaps
yes, it
ever.
Was the shortest ever.
So what is it that these talks have achieved that perhaps the previous few talks were unable to?
Well, as the viewers would remember, that the co-commander level talks was first initiated on 6th of June 2020. The whole idea was to ensure that the transgressions that have taken place, the tensions that broke out along the LAC late from early May onwards, things could be settled down through talks. However, things only escalated since then. Of course, both the sides had first agreed to carry out disengagement in the Galwan Valley as well as in Gogra and Hot Springs on the 6th of June. But the disengagement process, China did not fulfill the disengagement process, and which eventually led to a clash on the 15th of June. Since then, things escalated. While of course there were another co-commander level meeting and other level meeting that was held after that Galwan clash. A fresh decision was taken to disengage. China withdrew completely from the Galwan Valley, where they had intruded in the first week of June. They were supposed to carry out the disengagement in Gogra and Hot Spring also. In both these areas, the Chinese had crossed the Indian perception of the LAC by 3 kilometers and had set a few tents. The Chinese were supposed to go back from this particular area way back in July itself. However, again, while the Chinese did pull out certain elements from these areas, they did not complete the disengagement process. So since then, and then of course you had the Indian Army operation on the southern banks, then China retaliated, so there was a longer standoff. So in February this year is when the disengagement took place, the first major disengagement took place, which was on the southern and northern banks of Pangong Tso. Then however, there was another co-commander level meeting that was held in April, in which China changed its stand. Till then the whole idea was that first disengagement and then de-escalation. China changed its stand and said they need both countries need to go in for de-escalation first. So de-escalation means pulling back of additional troops that were pumped in to provide backup to the soldiers in the front. India was insisting that disengagement should happen first and then de-escalation. Why this is so? Because the Chinese have no doubt better infrastructure on their side. It is easier for them to bring back troops in comparison to India's capability. So now the talks that were held on Saturday has ended on a positive note. What we've been able to gather from our sources is that there is an understanding on disengagement in the Gogra and Hot Spring area. Out of the 4 trouble spots in eastern Ladakh, these 2 areas we had termed it as a low-hanging fruit. So hopefully, there could be a disengagement in the offing very soon. There's a statement that it is expected. It's likely to be issued either today evening or tomorrow.
So Snehesh, then what are the friction points that remain?
See, the friction points that remain would be Depsang Plains and also Demchok. Now both these areas have seen fresh frictions, but then both these the issues here are also legacy issues.
Right. So they predate the Galwan clash.
They predate the May, not just the Galwan clash, but they predate the fresh round of tensions that began in May.
Right. All right. Okay. So let's take this question from Anup Budade, who's a member of our YouTube community. In fact, all of you can become members of the Prince YouTube community. All you need to do is pay a little bit, which is 159 rupees a month, and we have special benefits, special perks waiting for you. So Anup's question is, with news coming that China hosted the Taliban leadership, points to directions that China wants to handle Taliban. How long can they do that? Also, what will be the impact on its border with India?
See, that's a very interesting question that you asked, and thank you for subscribing to ThePrint. In April this year, I'd done a column in which fortnightly column that I do, Brahmastra, in which I had said that India has to worry not just Pakistan and Afghanistan, but there's a rogue player in waiting, and that is China. Now, these recent incidents have clearly shown, that China really wants to get into Afghanistan. There are primarily because of two reasons why. First is, of course, the terror. Everybody is aware of the fact that China doesn't want, terrorists, operating from Afghanistan soil to target them. The second is the issue of Afghanistan is a natural resources rich country. So this is something that China is looking at. And then the more that Pakistan has control over Afghanistan, has a say in Afghanistan. Remember that Pakistan is almost like a colony for China. So it's not just Pakistan's control, it's China's control. Now, how far would the Chinese, and this Chinese statement is very interesting. The Chinese foreign minister described the Taliban as a political force and not just a military force. So political force, which means that it is all indication that China is backing of the Taliban, and if tomorrow the Taliban, even if the minute of chance is there, if they come to power through this gruesome war that they're waging, China and Pakistan would be the first countries to actually recognize the Taliban government.
Right. In fact, RV had a question similar to this. Ashish Chawla, are we losing time with these meetings by not upgrading infrastructure on our side and giving China just time to talk? Yeah, I think it's just this question is being repeated.
Well, I can tell you for the fact that, that don't just think that it's only the Chinese who are developing infrastructure. The infrastructure development activities on the Indian side continues. For example, there was a particular bridge that was built in the Galwan Valley, or in the larger part of the Galwan Valley, in July. Even after the Galwan clash, the tensions was at the highest. The construction work was happening. Even now, as we speak, various infrastructure development activities is going on, and in some places faster than what one would have imagined.
In fact, Ashish has another question, which is on whether there are further clashes that happen after the Galwan clash on the India-China border.
Well, of course, there were clashes that happened after the Galwan clash, but these clashes, there were no fatal casualties. What I'm referring to is, when the southern banks, when the India carried out the operation in southern banks, remember that it was the first time in decades that warning shots were fired. I'll not like to get into who fired those warning shots, but then I can tell you, it's for the viewers to understand. India had the first movers advantage. So there were pictures and all which emerged. So there have been this sporadic pushing and shoving that has happened in some of the locations. But I can tell you for the fact that as in 2021, there has not been any physical clash, physical contact between the troops in eastern Ladakh.
All right, this is Krish Vikram, another new member of our YouTube community. Are the hot springs and Gogra developments related to 2020 intrusion, or are there earlier issues that are being addressed now?
Hey, thank you again for subscribing to the print. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you. As far as Gogra and Hot Springs are concerned, Gogra and Hot Springs actually relate to what happened in May last year. Remember, just for the understanding of the viewers, the chronology is like this. For example, the tensions first actually began in Galwan Valley. This was, the Indians were going ahead and building about 6 footbridges, because to reach PP14, that is petrol point 14, the soldiers patrolling there had to wade through the water 5 times. So what the Indians had done was that they had built footbridges. Now these are temporary structures that are built over the river so that the soldiers can cross. These are not any giant bridges or anything. These are footbridges. Now the Chinese objected to this particular thing in April. And then there was it was only an objection over hotline. India continued to go ahead with that construction, which is a very temporary kind of a construction that takes place there. And then the first clash happened in the Pangong, so the northern Pangong. So on 18th of May, that's the first major clash that happened. Of course, pushing and shoving is something which is happens on a regular basis. but the first major clash happened on 18th of May 2020. The build up by the Chinese happened post 18th of May. So you had this build up in, of course, by 18th of May evening, you had about 700 Chinese troops who landed up in the Finger 4 area of Pangong So, and in the subsequent days you had infiltration taking place or incursion taking place in Gogra and Hot Spring area too.
Okay, this is a question from another YouTube member, Anurag Sinha, who wants to know how can he start a career in defense journalism. He's a 25-year-old graduate.
Hey, thank you for your question. That's and thank you for subscribing to ThePrint. As far as your question is concerned, I think first you need to have passion in what you do. Plus, you need to read more. And of course, now, for example, I have myself taken undergone a journalism course from the Asian College of Journalism. So did my colleague Ruhi also. Multiple, of course. A degree in journalism, a certificate in journalism from a journalism college always helps. As far as getting a beat is concerned, I think beat is something. For example, the first story that I did, in which my first byline came, I was working with the New Indian Express in Chennai, and the first story that I had was actually on I was part of the features team, and it was the Chick Shampoo had launched a new menthol range of shampoo. And they were giving free hair washes to one of the slum area in Chennai, and that was the first story that I did. So again, it's you don't really get into straight into defense or for that at PMO Home Ministry. You have to start from the beginning and then grow up in career and depending on what your interest and what your keenness is, the seniors would give you beats that is available. So for example, I've done multiple beats earlier. I've done the Home Ministry investigations, the CAPFs and all, then the MEA, Pakistan of course, and then defense.
All right, so Snehesh, before we close, when are the next round of talks likely, and can we expect any further movement after those talks? So for now, Gogra and Hot Springs will remain the focus area.
So as far as the next round of co-commander talks are concerned, it's anybody's guess as of now. But as I said, there is a statement that is supposed to be issued, is likely to be issued, not supposed to be issued, is likely to be issued. We will have, and if the disengagement process has been agreed to, there would be a disengagement process that will happen, which will take a few days. And post that, you will have a stabilization period where both sides will keep an eye on the situation and ensure that everything that has been agreed to has been implemented on the ground. Then the co-commanders or maybe at a different level or at a junior level, at major level, could meet and carry forward the further discussions that are needed to be taken as far as the of course Demchok and Depsang plains are concerned, but also de-escalation. So right now the focus is on disengagement. After disengagement, the talks will focus on de-escalation.
All right. Okay, Snehesh, thank you so much for helping us look ahead of the talks that happened on Saturday and try and understand the what next of it. Thank you to our viewers for sending in their questions, for watching Government Matters. Keep subscribing to our YouTube channel. In fact, become a member of our YouTube community.
Thank you.